Um, and I basically spent the last few years kind of reorganizing and redirecting my life. Um, Basically, I have spent the last few years trying to decide really what I was going to do with myself. I decided that I was really going to give my dreams a shot. Um, I knew I wanted to go back to school, but I wasn't really sure about the opportunity and whether it was going to present itself. And then everything just kind of aligned, and I ended up going to Valley. Now, one of the things that you should know about me is I originally went to Valley when I think the first time I went, I was like 17 or 18, right? I was still in high school. Um, but I had so many systemic issues going on in my life that Valley was not it for me at that point in time. I was not emotionally or mentally prepared to handle the issues that I was having, and that kind of changed the trajectory with me going to school. I have probably had issues in school. I want to say 4 or 5 times where I've had to drop out. And I'm telling you that because I want everybody to know that your story is unique, and whatever you need to express within your application is going to be unique to you. So for me, it was the hardships that I went through. If you have something that's unique to you, or a hardship, or you're part of a community, or you have something that makes you stand out in some sort of way, I'm telling you that so that you can share that on the application, because you want them to have the essence of who you are when they walk away from reviewing the application. So basically, I got a fresh start at Valley. I went back to school. I started doing really well. I got straight A's my first semester. It was enough for me to apply for academic renewal. I did that. I ended up with one C left that I could not get removed, and I tried. I tried so hard. Um, but by the time I was transferring from Valley, I think I left with a 3.91, I think, something close to that. And basically my experience with Valley was so great, from the counselors, shout out to you, to all of my classes. I can't even tell you how much they actually prepared me for actually being at Columbia. Um, my first semester at Columbia, I walked in here and I ended up getting a 3.9, which I'm very happy to say that I did that because I was prepared. So hopefully I can prepare you guys a little bit and give you guys a little bit of advice, and that will help you um, along your journey, just like I had that great experience. So to tell you a little bit about the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation, Jack Kent Cooke was an entrepreneur and a philanthropist. He actually was a previous owner of the LA Lakers, which most people don't know, so that's kind of cool. But he basically gave the majority of his fortune to the foundation so that he could supply people with the option of going to college who couldn't afford it. So the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation has given away over $300 million in scholarships and grants in the last 20 to 25 years. So it's an amazing foundation, and it touches on not only transfer scholarships, but it has so many different programs. So we're going to talk about that just a little bit. Um, so this is just a brief understanding so that if you guys have someone in your life and you want to possibly share this information with, you can. They have a Young Scholars Program. I believe that's for middle schoolers going into high school. They have a College Scholarship Program, which is for high schoolers going into college. And then you have the scholarship that I received, which is the undergraduate transfer scholarship that most of you are going to be going after. Um, and that also, if you receive the undergraduate transfer scholarship, once you've graduated, you can also apply for the graduate scholarship. So that would possibly take care of both your bachelor's and your master's or your law degree. But they basically offer a lot of different programs to help a lot of different people. Um, the other thing that I will say is the undergraduate transfer scholarship itself is a fully funded scholarship. They offer up to $55,000 a year. It basically depends on what school you go to and how much the school costs per year. If you have children, they provide additional childcare funding up to $10,000. There's also an internship stipend, which means if you decide to be an intern over the summer, they will give you an additional $6,000 just for being an intern because they realize you have to live and you need, you know, you have bills to pay or, you need food and clothing and all that kind of stuff. There's also something that I really like is called a travel and conference stipend. That's a part of the scholarship, which is you're able to travel to a conference that has something to do with your major of interest, and they will pay for it. They will pay for your room and board and your travel once a year for 2 years. So that's something that I like a lot, as well as if you decide to take out student loans. For example, me going to Columbia, the cost of attendance is sometimes higher than what Jack Kent Cooke provides. Then if I have to take out a loan, they would repay the loan possibly. They don't do it for everyone. I think it's based on situation. So, but they also provide a computer for once for 2 years. So that's something as well, which is really great. I have a computer right now because of them. So just to kind of give you some information about that. Now, the other thing is the minimum requirements for the Jack Kent Cooke Scholarship is you have to be a community college student looking to transfer to a four-year college. You have to apply in your sophomore year. And you also have to have a financial need. They want to be able to see your financial records, possibly your parents, depending on how old you are. And you have to make less than $95,000 a year in your household. And you also have to have not been to a four-year college. So that's something as well. And a minimum of a 3.5 GPA. One sec. Um, But the next thing we're going to talk about is we're going to actually talk about not what the requirements are, but what they actually look for. So I want you to know that regardless of whether this scholarship is something that you decide to apply for or not, most of this information in terms of the answers to your questions that we're going to be working on today, or how you decide to represent yourself within an application will be applicable to other scholarships as well. And there's lots of opportunities, but I just wanted to share that so that you keep that in mind. Okay, so on the blue side, you will see what they say is the average cookie scholar. They say you have to have, the average has a 3.94 GPA, excuse me, participated in honors programs, some sort of leadership position, maybe in student government or maybe within Umoja or something like that. Extracurricular activities are a plus. Community initiatives or activities are also a plus. And like I said previously, have a strong financial need and are devoted to higher education. So they're really looking for people who are interested in not only getting their bachelor's, but also interested in getting their master's or maybe a PhD or going to law school. So they're looking for people that are really trying to change the trajectory of their life through an education. Now, personally, my stats at the time that I applied, I think I had a 3.91 GPA. I was on the Dean's List 4 semesters in a row, which was on my application, as well as the President's Award. I was in both TAP Honors and Umoja, and I had also participated in the Umoja workshops and conferences. I was a guest speaker, and I had also decided to volunteer weekly at a food scarcity shelter that was close to me. Also, I had experience in film and media, which is my major, so that was reflective within my application of something that was positive. And I was a Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society member. So they do ask these questions on the application, and the more you can kind of tell them about yourself and not just the standard oh, I've done this before. I like to volunteer, but they really want to understand how you spend your time and what you enjoy doing and what you put in effort to. So, for example, if like I'm a parent, I have a 7-year-old daughter. On my application, I talked about how I spend time with her. That we spent time in our garden and that was something that we liked to do. Or that we read books together. There's value in whatever it is that you have to offer. It doesn't always have to be that perfect checked box of, oh, I know that colleges look at this, or I know that scholarships look at this. Let me talk about this specific thing. Those are great, but we also want to talk about who you are and what you have to represent on your application. So this right here is the link to the actual scholarship. When you apply through the Common App. I'm going to walk you guys through a little bit of the actual application, so we'll have a chance to actually talk about that. The deadline is January 9th. I know that seems like it's really far away. It is not. It will come and go really fast. When there are also, like I said, there are 2 scholarships open right now within Jack Kent Cooke. When it was my turn to apply, I actually thought I missed the deadline because I was looking at the deadline for the college application and not the undergraduate transfer application. So just so you guys know, be careful of your deadlines and make sure that you know exactly how much time it's going to take you. One of the other things that I want to say is it's really important that they remember you. It's kind of like writing a college essay in the sense that they want to know what drives you. They want to know about your hardships. They want to know exactly who you are, what you've been through, and what you've learned from the situation. And they want to root for you. I think that's one of the things that you'll learn about Jack Kent Cooke, like as an organization. It's very much like a family. Everybody is really helpful and accommodating. Um, what my dean scholar is basically my counselor, and we talk often. Um, she really has helped me out in certain situations, um, communicating back and forth with Columbia or things like that. It really helps to have somebody that's kind of on your side. And when I don't have the option to advocate for myself, I feel like that's something that they do for you. So the better you kind of represent yourself in terms of giving them the story of yourself so that they understand you are really just making progress within your own guidelines. It's not about comparing it to somebody else. It really is a unique situation. When I applied, I was actually afraid because I thought, okay, I'm an artist, I'm a writer. That's not something that they're most likely going to be interested in. It was. And not only do they support the arts, but it doesn't matter what you're actually interested in. If it's STEM, if it's arts, if it's literature, it can literally be anything. If it's business, they want to know that you're trying to make a difference and change the world somehow. So that's the most important thing. This I cannot stress enough. Although the application initially is not long, one of the things that I would say is it takes a long time to sometimes gather your materials or to rewrite your questions. Take some time to really make sure that you know exactly what you want your answers to be and take time to curate those answers. I think I worked on my application for around a month. I wrote an essay, and I had to, write question answers to these questions. So I'm basically saying that make sure that you're aware of time, give yourself a minimum of a month, especially for your letters of recommendation, and make sure that all of the information that you need is available. Um, One of the most important things that I think helped me the most was writing my essay. I took about 2 weeks writing my college essay. Um, it was definitely something that I spent a lot of time on because I wanted them to understand who I was and what I had to offer. And sometimes it can be kind of hard to word, your life in a couple of pages and to put everything down. So the thing that I would say is write a master essay, have something that you can pull from. The Jack Kent Cooke Scholarship no longer asks you for an essay. So I want to be clear about that. They don't ask you for an essay, but I would write one anyway because a lot of the questions that you are going to answer on the application, you can pull from and find things about yourself that you might not have thought of without that master essay. Um, so I found that to be really helpful. And I one of the major things that you should, include is your bio, the obstacles, the different lessons you've learned, um, any sort of extracurricular activities that you have, and anything that makes you unique, whatever kind of communities you belong to, and also your future goals. All of those things are going to definitely um, define your essay and make them unique and personal to you. So that's one of the most important things that I would say is really make sure that when you're writing your essay, you share some vulnerability and you share um, just basically how you got to where you are. So um, Jack Kent Cooke, they have a few things that I feel like makes them unique in terms of what they're looking for with scholars. One of the most important things that I would say is they are very community oriented. If you are in STEM and you want to it could be anything. You want to create a cure for cancer, or if you are a writer and you want to change the world with, your 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 books. Like it could be anything that is really about changing your community and also about how you are actively putting that to use. So that's one of the things that I would say is really important in terms of your application. Um, so like for me being in film, um, I worked as an associate producer on a documentary, and the documentaries had to do with social change. One of them was about um, men who had been incarcerated and who were learning how to work on self-forgiveness through meditation. Another one was about how to deal with um, physical things within ourselves that we can't change. Um, so anything that you have or that you've worked on that's unique to you is something that I would share. And even if you feel like I don't really have any of that, I don't really know what that would look like. I think the thing that I would ask myself is, how do I spend my time? If you spend your time and you have a hobby, or there's something that you like, or there's something that applies to what you're trying to do in the world and what you're trying to do within your education, it's something that they're going to want to know about. Um, and also, if you have any sort of work that you've done within the community that is volunteering, or if you belong to any sort of groups or associations, or even telling them about what you've done within Umoja. A lot of the stuff that I did at the time was stuff that was surrounding Umoja or was stuff that was surrounding film. So that's something that's really important that you can include in your application. I think one of the things also is, what do you really love? If you really love your family and you have a little brother or sister that you're crazy about, and your mom goes to work long hours and you watch, your 6-year-old sister, and that's how you spend your time, tell them about how you show leadership. It doesn't have to be the traditional way of showing leadership. It has to be something that they can see has changed you, and that is something that you can share these skills with the people around you. And that can be life experience. That doesn't necessarily have to be something that you're doing in a classroom. So that's something that I think is really important, is that you really show them exactly what you're doing, like I said, with your time. And I'm going to say that a lot because it's really true. The other thing that I would say is, what are your goals and what are you aiming for? Um, for me, I was I was honest with them, but one of the first things that they do when you actually get to the other side and you're a cookie scholar, they ask you about your goals. You have to write, you have to fill out this whole Excel sheet on, what are your goals for the next 6 months? What are the goals for the next year? What are your goals for the next 5 years? What are your goals for the next 10 years? Because they really want you to be able to accomplish these things. And when you write them down, there's a validity to that. So the more you know about the journey that you're about to embark on and what you really want to do, the better. For me, being, a writer and a screenwriter, I really wanted to change systemic racism through film. I wanted to change the image that people project on screen about Black people. That was something that was really important to me. I put that in my application. I told them that I wanted to, come to Columbia, and that I was also interested in getting my master's and actually going to school for directing. So share those things with them. Share what college you're interested in going to. That's another really big thing. Are you interested in going to a college that you feel like maybe you can afford, and you're trying to figure out exactly how to do that? And what I will say is, personally, if you are going to apply to a school, and you guys are in the midst of that right now, and you're going to UCLA, versus you're going to, I don't know, like USC, right? There's a financial deficit there for USC more likely than there is for UCLA. So there are certain things that they're looking for, meaning they're trying to fund people who they feel like will not get their dreams fulfilled if they don't. So just keep that in mind. The other thing that I would say is certain application tips. We've kind of touched on these a little bit. But for me, like within my application, I had to talk about some of the hardships that I had went through. And for me, that was within within the series of questions. There was no longer an essay, and I really wanted them to be able to understand exactly who I was. And I had a really hard time trying to figure out how to do that, because I wanted to talk about abuse. I wanted to talk about the fact that I went through homelessness. I wanted to talk about the fact that, I was a caregiver. Or I wanted to talk about the fact that, I had went to school so many times and had ended up back here at Valley, and finally had succeeded at something that I felt like was probably never going to happen in the past. It was very discouraging for me when I first went to school, and that was something that I had overcome. Those were all things that I wanted to find ways to put in my application. Now, the application changes a little bit every year. So the questions that I had to answer aren't necessarily the questions that you're going to have to answer this year. But what I will say is, they're looking for people who are going to apply what they have learned to their professional goals, to their professional dreams. They're looking for people who are uniquely able to and who are uniquely able to, change things around them, and who will unstick themselves out of ruts, and really kind of are willing to take themselves to the next level. So the other thing that I would say is, just understand your version of excellence, whatever that is. I'm sure that if you're here and you're listening to this, there's something that is unique about you, that you want to talk about and that you can actually share. Um, and let them know what you're going to do with it. Are you going to get your master's? Do you really want to be a lawyer and you really, want to help people because you feel like, the court systems are not just? Is there something that you want to do, and how are you going to spend your time? One of the things that I want to take you guys through, this is kind of the important part, is I'm going to actually walk you through the application and show you, here we go. Okay, show you the different parts of the application. Can everybody still with me? Everybody can still see? Okay. So, there's 4 parts of the application, right? The easy part is the personal information part. So most of this is not stuff that I have to walk you through. This is your name, your date of birth, your race, your birth location, all the stuff that people want to know generally about you through applications, your email, your phone number, nationality. Also, one thing that I will state about this part is when you apply through something through the Common App, they have a fee waiver. So apply for the fee waiver and make sure that you don't pay to submit for the application. For anybody that qualifies. So that's the first part. You want to make sure that you fill out every piece of the application. So they're going to ask you about how you prefer to communicate. Okay, great. They're going to ask you all of your address information. All of those things are really standard. If you want to go back, you always click My Application. But this area, the academic history, you're going to have to add each school that you've attended. So you're going to have to search, type everything in, type the dates that you attended, and then you're going to save this. Once you save the school, it's going to create a category for you to add things. So for example, you went to 2 different high schools, but you got your GED. You have to add each one of those in there. Or you went to 2 different colleges. You might have moved from, LA Valley to LACC. But all the information here is going to be something about school. So I'm going to show you really quick a few things. If you can see this is my original application that I printed out. So there are certain things that you're going to have to enter. You're going to have to enter each and every class you took at Valley or any other college. So that's why I'm saying it takes a certain amount of time. So be aware. I don't want you to spend the last 2 days rushing, trying to get everything together. Be aware that you have to have your transcripts so you can get the name of the class, the credits for the class, your grade, what semester it happened, what school it happened at, so that you understand each and everything you have to actually enter. Then you have to enter your GPA, standardized test scores. those are not necessary. If you have them, great. If you don't have them, that's okay. I didn't have them. Um, SATs or anything like that that you want to add. Um, for me, I did not have those either because I was a non-traditional student returning to school. So if you have them, great. If you don't, that's fine. And then also community-based organization details. They want to know what programs you're into. How did you involve yourself in your community or any extracurricular activities? If you look right here, you can see a few things about me. Um, Umoja Black Scholars is one of the things that I used for my supporting information. I also had a membership to the Hollywood Foreign Press because I was interested in film and media, and that was my major. As well as I was a volunteer at Triple CP, and I did that whole thing because I thought I was going to go to UCLA. Also, I put the fact that I was a mother and a single parent on there. I gave them every ounce of information that I possibly could about myself. So just be prepared that that's what you're getting into. I was also a guest speaker. That was actually one of the parts that was really great for me. Sometimes you don't know how opportunities are going to really help you. And I don't know if any of you are in TAP or not, but I was in TAP at LAVC, and one of my counselors came to me and asked if I would be a speaker, and I ended up speaking at this conference, and I met some really great people. And when I was there, um, I ended up basically making somebody's acquaintance that really helped me and ended up being one of my letters of recommendation. And I say that because that was one of the strongest parts of my application. I had a professor who really loved my work and was very willing to help me and see me. Um, and I will say having a Black female professor and her actually saying to me, Cecily, I think you should try to go to Yale. I think you should apply to Columbia. I think you should, because nobody was telling me these things. So um having somebody actually see that in me and say like, okay, I think you're capable of doing this, that really kind of shifted me into a new space. So I'm saying that because all of that came from that one conference. So even though you probably have a lot on your plate right now and you're in the midst of applying for stuff and you're applying for scholarships and all that stuff, if there's an opportunity that you can take that's something, do it. Try something new and break out of your comfort zone a little bit so that you can have something on there that you feel like maybe is completely different from what you have already. So that's one of the things that I'd like to share. Also, I had volunteer experience. I was on the president's honors list. So I'm just kind of trying to show you exactly what they're interested in. At the time I was in a screenwriting workshop and I won the award for best screenplay. And I was on the dean's list. All of those things you're going to have to consider. So what you're going to do is you need to kind of create like a master list of all the things that you think are applicable for this application. So whether that's awards or whether that's honors or whether that's, you figuring out your GPA or what actually counts as extracurricular activities or not, getting your resume together. I had to actually submit a resume because they wanted to know about my professional experience, because even that was something that helped me. Um, I, you know, I spent maybe 10 years working before I decided to go back to school. So knowing that that was actually something that was valuable to them and actually helped when they saw my resume and they cared about what I was doing outside of school, that's another plus. and they're looking for non-traditional students. They're looking for people that have, unique experiences and unique stories that are really looking to, get their education and really just basically do everything that they can. So a little bit about my professional experience. This is what my resume at the time looked like. I had been an associate producer. I had been a field manager. I had also done some operations and some executive assistant work. So everything that you have, I'm going to recommend that you kind of throw at them in the most polished way that you possibly can. But gear it towards whatever you're interested in specifically. So that's one of the things that I would say. And then after that, let's look at the actual question portion of the application. Okay, so there's one question here. It basically they ask about community engagement, extracurricular activities. This is where you're going to write those down that we talked about previously. You go to add an experience. They're going to ask you for the organization. They're going to ask you for their information in terms of who they can reach out to, the amount of time that you were there, the description, all of that information needs to be included. That's really, I'm going to stress it one more time and I'll leave you alone about it, but that's really what the timeline is about. That's why they give you so much time. They open it up in October and they close it in January because they know that people need a lot of time to really figure out all of these answers. So that's something as well. Achievements, this is where you put any of your dean's list or anything on there that you have that you would like to put. Documents. So they ask you for your resume, they ask you for any sort of information that you have in terms of like naturalization. And then they also ask you for your unofficial transcripts. Now, here's how it works with your transcripts. When you're actually applying before you are a semi-finalist, right? Let's say you're in the first step of the process, you're applying, you become a semi-finalist, and then afterward, we're waiting for you to become a finalist. When you are applying, they ask for your unofficial transcripts. They don't verify anything yet. Once you are actually a semi-finalist, let's say there are 3,000 people that apply for this scholarship, and they decide each year the number kind of changes in terms of how many people they pick to be semifinalists, but it's usually around 300 to 400 people, maybe a little bit over that. So the biggest thing that I would say is that's when you're going to have to provide them with additional information. You're going to have to provide them with all of your financial information. They might ask you one or two more supplemental questions like, well, how would you feel if, you got the scholarship, or what would you do in this case? But most of it is really just financial information because they're trying to see how bad you really need it. Are you going to be somebody that can, you know, work without it, or are you going to be somebody that really kind of puts it to good use? And then the other thing that I would say is that's also when they're going to ask you for your official transcripts. And when they ask you for your official transcripts, they're also going to be asking you for your grades from the current semester. So even though you've submitted from the semester before, they're going to ask you for your grades again in the middle to verify whether they're going to choose you or not. So don't have that like senior like slow. It's like where you just like, oh, I don't have it in me no more, because they check those things and they're trying to make sure that you kept up with your grades enough to receive the scholarship. Also, once you do get the scholarship, they ask you for your grades every semester. The winter semester, it's an unofficial, and then at the end of the year, it's an official transcript. So you also have to provide them with your financials from school every year to get pre-approved. They want to know that you're in school so they can send the money to school. And they kind of, have a process for doing that. Then they make you basically go through these affirmative statements, basically says that you won't do anything to hurt the institution in any sort of way. That's pretty standard. And then this program materials is where you're going to actually see the real application, the part that you guys actually care about. So let me see this. All right, so you click on this. And this is where you get to the questions. So this is kind of the information that we talked about before. No previous enrollment in a four-year institution. You must be a sophomore at a community college. You have to be actually enrolled, and you have to have from a 3.5 to a 4.0. And you have to have financial need. So then this is where we get into the questions. This is the important part, I would say. Now, the questions, when I was filling out my application, I will show you a couple of the questions that I had. I'm also going to talk to you guys about the questions that you'll have this year when filling out the application, kind of see how you guys feel about them and kind of work through some of the responses that some of you may have around the questions so we can see, get a better understanding of exactly how you're going to approach it and what you're going to do with it. But most of this is pretty standard. They want to know, your cumulative GPA. They want to know your unmet financial need. Now, right here, it says that the median income is 19,000. So that kind of shows you exactly where they're at. They ask you about race and identity. They want to know if you're currently enrolled. We've talked about those things. So you have to actually enter your school. Now, this question right here, it says, tell us about any special circumstances. So, excuse me, that was actually one of the questions that I answered within my own application that is the same. And I'm going to share that with you so you guys can get an understanding. Every question you should answer as a story. And I say that to say, don't just give them the answer. Give them the why, give them the cause. But you guys actually have it a little bit easier in the fact that the answers this year are they give you a little bit more room to answer the questions. I think with mine, they had a cap and it was something like 200 to 300 words. And it was really hard to try to fit all of that information in there. So what I'm going to say is tell them about if you have a W, why you got the W, or tell them, this semester might have been different than my other semesters because I had to deal with this, or maybe I got COVID, or maybe I had to work because somebody in my family got laid off and there were special circumstances. Tell them about exactly what's going on, but tell them in a story format so that they understand, but it's also emotionally appealing to them so that they get like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. Like, I understand why this person went through this. And you may not have any special circumstances, and that's okay. But I certainly did within my application. And then you get to things that are a little bit more difficult. They ask you about AI. So I want to talk about this a little bit because everybody kind of has different rules around AI. Now, within Columbia, I have professors that allow AI, which is crazy to me, and I have professors that shun it and say absolutely not. So I say that to say, use your best sense of reason in terms of what you're using AI for. Like, there are some professors that I have that are like, oh, I use it to generate ideas and that's fine. So just be aware that some people are okay with it and some people aren't. So we can talk about that a little bit more if you guys want to moving forward. But then here we are, we've got to like the major portion of the questions, and it says, what have you created, started, made, or built, and why? Who did you share? Who did you share the experience with, and or how would you improve upon the original effort? So I will say on my actual application, I did not have this question. So this is something that is unique to this year. It's not something that I actually had to answer myself. Um, but it's basically going to be something that you guys have to kind of think about and respond, while you're filling out your application. So if anybody would like to kind of hop on and actually talk through some things and we can talk through these questions, anybody be willing to actually talk about what they feel like they've started or made or built? No, not
I would
yet.
like to ask, what was the most difficult part of the application for you?
Okay. I think the most part, I think for me, the most difficult part was answering in a way that was sincere and that showed vulnerability, but was still within the means of like the professional realm. I think trying to find a medium for that, how vulnerable do I decide to be? What do I decide to share? Um, but I think as long as you're presenting yourself with authenticity, that's probably the most important part. I think really formulating your answers. I went over my answers 5, 6 times. I rewrote my answers. I spent like hours rewriting my answers. So I think you just have to dig into yourself and find out what you really want to show people.
What resources did you use as far as like counselors and staff at the school that you use to help you navigate through writing any of the writings for this particular scholarship? Because I know one of my issues is I it's very hard to shorten what you're trying to convey of yourself to others so that they get a true sense of who you are, especially being that like you've gone through enough, or at least it'd be like enough. You've gone
Mm-hmm.
through a lot, and you you want them to understand why this is important to you. But how do you do that? I guess I'm asking too many questions in this one question, but
No, it's okay.
navigating
We're
through
here to
that
talk about it. It's
without
okay.
oversharing, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. And when I say oversharing, that means like going into like intricate
Detail.
detail for every single thing that you're speaking about. So like where like who were your main resources to help you navigate through that, and how did you do that?
So I'm going to give you the blandest answer ever, and I'm going to say everyone. I used every resource that I had. Um, I am not joking when I say I spent 2 to 3 weeks writing my master essay. I would lay in bed every day and I would cry writing my essay, and then I would rewrite it and I would take things out. So I'm saying that to say that I understand exactly what you're saying, and it's a complicated answer, but what I what I would really do is I would write your essay. I would write it exactly the way you intend to, with all the emotion and all the feeling that you have for it. And then I would let somebody see it that you trust and that you don't mind knowing those things about you, but that, has some sort of professional understanding of who you are. And for me, like I I wrote my I wrote mine and I showed it to Dr. Coney. That's what I did. And we literally spent like 2 hours going over my essay and him pulling things out and putting things back in and him talking to me about exactly, what worked and what didn't work. And my essay was long. My essay was originally, I want to say around 1,500 words. Um, so there's a lot of things that I didn't get to use from my essay, which I wrote originally for Columbia, that I did use a lot of the information for Jack Kent Cooke itself. So that is step one into your answer. It would be to do that with someone. Um, and then once that happens, I would say show it to somebody who is on the opposite side. Show it to the person that you trust first, and then show it to the person who may not really have your back after that, because they're going to give you the harshest answers you can possibly get. And those answers, you'll kind of find yourself in the middle of that, and you'll be able to pull the information from those two people and kind of say, okay, this is what works for me. And not only that, but I'm not joking, you guys. I'm here because I really want somebody to get this. That's why I'm here. I want you guys to win. So if you guys, want to come back to the workshop, I'm gonna give you guys my email. You guys can send me your email afterward, an email afterward, and kind of say like, hey, can you take a look at this and see like what you think or blah blah blah. Um, the whole thing is to show yourself to the best of your ability. So, did that answer your question? I'm not sure if it really
Yes,
did, but I hope so.
yes, you answered my question. I'm not sure if anybody else has a question, but I don't mind asking another. Um,
Raise your hand. Hi. I
how
do have a
many?
question. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I don't want to interrupt. I do have a question.
Okay, Bebo, can we hold your question just for a moment and give someone else an opportunity? We'll come
yes,
right back.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, am I holding the question? Or
Yeah,
am I asking? Okay, I'm
you
asking
go
the question.
ahead, Caprice.
Okay.
Caprice and Drew. Thank you.
Hi. So going back to you mentioned earlier about homelessness, right? That's a vulnerability.
Mhm.
For an example, can you give a little bit into how you kind of wrote that out? Maybe that gives a little more insight of how you really pulled that example together.
Sure. One of the things that kind of touches on both questions, I also had the luck of having someone who was willing to they were willing to share their answers with me. So I met somebody that was actually a cookie scholar, and she gave me that information. Um, and what that did for me wasn't actually give me the answers to the questions, right? Because obviously it's unique to me. But what it did is it showed me that it wasn't rocket science. It was just an answer. So I don't want you guys, I'm saying that because I don't want you to overthink this and say like, how do I make this right? It's it's not going to be something that is just unique to me. You are just as capable of giving a standard answer to the question and making it work. So I don't mind sharing my answers with you, and I'll share my answers. But I want you to understand that like what I would hope is that my answers make you more comfortable and you see like, okay, I got it. Not like, okay, she did no, it's not about me. Like it's easy, like you got it. um so let me see. Let me pull this up. Actually, I think I have one of them on here. Is that it? No, I'm gonna go back to this. Okay, I'm going to read this answer for you. Okay, so for example, we talked about previously, this is the only question I think that applies to both applications, my year and your year. And it was talking about, tell us about special circumstances. So this was my answer. And it's kind of a discombobulated answer that you might not really be able to understand. But if you look at my school records, it would actually make sense. So I'm trying to explain the different things that have happened. Within my education that they might not have liked or let pass had I not put it in this box. So I said I was 16 the first night we slept in our car. Unbeknownst to me, my homelessness would create a significant detour in my high school and college education. It would take 9 years to get out of the car. During this period, I enrolled in 4 colleges, but was never able to attend any of these classes. My first completed semester was the fall of 2021 at Valley College. In addition, the first 3 jobs listed on my resume are non-paid positions. I recently received an EW due to COVID-19. So that was my explanation for everything that was a negative on my application. Yeah. Um, but I gave them a little bit. I didn't tell them I spent all night crying in the car. I didn't say that part. I said this is what the circumstance was. So I'm saying that to say, like, you have to kind of find a way to navigate what you need to say and let them understand that it's part of your story that's actually happened to someone, you know? Um, does is there anything else surrounding that that you guys want to touch on?
I wanted to mention, sorry, my students are transitioning into the larger village space because I am going to be off the clock right now. So that's why they got up and walked away. They were still very attentive to you.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Just putting that out there. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a question about the first question on the there was 2 questions that were asked, and one of them was asking about building something. And
Yes. Hmm.
um
That's
is there any way,
actually on the application this year. Yeah,
yeah, on the application this year, I wanted to kind of go back to that question.
I think that's perfect. Go ahead. Do you want me to
I
reread it
can't
for
see the
you?
questions.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Sorry.
1 second. Okay. It
Sorry,
says,
I have
what
I'm on
have
a
you
phone.
created, started, made, or built, and why? Who did you share your experience with? Or how would you improve upon your original effort? Now, you guys are lucky. You guys got 600 words. I think I got like 200. So that actually makes it easier.
Now, when they're asking us like, what have we created?
Mhm.
What are they talking about exactly?
Mm,
Like, that's I don't. Is it like right now? I'm thinking like I have a friend who's like really into like he's an engineer major, so I'm
okay.
thinking about like the little robotic stuff that he makes. But I don't think that is that what they're like. What is this?
Not necessarily. What's your major? What are you interested in?
I'm interested. I'm studying accounting and finance.
Okay.
So I don't really. I'm not really a big creator, I guess you could say.
Um, Maybe not. Maybe you don't actually create things in a tangible sense, but is there something that you have created or done around your work as a business major that you feel like improved something for someone?
Um, I think maybe the closest thing that comes to my mind when it comes to creating is I I I brought a group of brothers and we I created like this little group with us and I mean it's really I guess you could say it's not really much right now, but you know, all of us are all from different like we're all in different chapters as far as for I have even one of them he's a freshman, so he's just coming in and like
Mm-hmm.
we all just got together um
What does
because
the
a lot
group
of
do?
um we haven't really accomplished anything yet. It's just we all just got together because we're
No,
all
that's
like
okay. What's the function of the group though? Like, what are you hoping to do?
uh,
What are you working
um
on?
everyone's surrounded um we're all amongst the same like we all have a mindset the same mindset of just wanting to grow and I guess we would just network. I don't think that really amounts to much actually. So
Well,
scratch.
if you have, so here's what I'll say. If you have like a mastermind group, that's okay. If that's what you want to talk about on your application, you say, I believe in getting men together and having healthy relationships and talking about these things that are proactively helping us grow. That's a thing. but it's how you word it and how you create and set yourself up that matters. You creating that, that's a group. That's something that you established. That's something that you made. That's something that they're going to care about. They want to know how you spend your time. I was not, being facetious when I said it can be whatever it is. How do you spend your time? So don't discount that and say, I didn't actually do anything. Nope, that's not what you're gonna do. You're gonna say, talk about what you intend and what you're creating. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
I have a question.
sure.
So if we could double back to like, I guess, volunteer work and philanthropy.
Mm-hmm.
I used to volunteer in high school. I'm a mother now, so I don't really have a lot of spare time to volunteer, unfortunately. I will try to put my best efforts to do something before January, maybe, if that's possible. But
Okay.
can I add that to my resume? Like, could I add that to the questionnaire?
Absolutely. That's what
Oh,
they want to know. Um, I I'm a mom as well. I had a 3-year-old when I started at Valley. Now I have a 7-year-old. Um, and she's went through this whole process with me. And they want to know about that. Like, being a mother is a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and it's also a place of leadership. You also are creating something within your family. So you have to really approach things as, this is why I've made the decisions that I've made. I'm going back to school. This is, changing me and my daughter and the life that we're going to have. This is, you know, creating something for my daughter. This is what we do at home. I put that in my application. We had a garden. We used to go outside. We used to garden, or we used to work on our vocabulary words, or, you know, they want to see you, and if you being a mom is an essential part of your life and also essential part of your journey for getting your education, I would definitely find a way to express that in your application.
thank you. And then as well as the previous volunteer work that I did maybe like many years ago. Could I add that in there?
So, I'm not sure if they have it on this one, but I think they have a time limit. I don't know, but
Oh,
you're gonna have to check on this year's application to verify that.
yeah.
Um, Now, what I would say is it doesn't necessarily have to be volunteer work, right? You're a part of Umoja, that
Yeah.
goes on there, you know? Um, if you do anything at the school, do you work outside of school? Is that something that you do? All of
Mm.
those things are extracurricular activities. Um, you know, how do you do things in your life? How do you get things done? That's what they want to know. They want to know that you're capable of getting things done and that you're capable of meeting those goals.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
No, I just
have a
want to
question.
take a
Oh.
moment, sorry. I don't want to forget that Sable was waiting. She had another question. And then
Okay.
before, but go ahead, Dimitriana. I just wanted to make sure I reminded Sable that she's still up.
Okay, about the first question that's on the application, the things that we've built.
Yes.
I'm a little older, so there's a lot of things that I've built.
Okay.
Would I do the most recent thing? Because when I was a kid, I started a girls club, but as an adult, I started an event planning company. So do I do the most recent?
I would say pick the thing that inspires you the most, because whatever is
Okay.
going to inspire you and have you really excited on the page to say, hey, this is something that I'm really proud of. It's going to, affect them. So
Okay.
I think there's something to say. How can I say this? I think there's something to be said for like hitting the right beats, right? Like anybody could be a dancer and hit the right beats. But at the same time, you still want to be aware of like, is this it, am I curating this so it's as strong as it can possibly be? Do you have something that you feel like is stronger than the other?
Hmm, I actually do.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
do you mind sharing it?
Well, as far as what I want to do, I think helping other people build their businesses is the strongest thing.
Okay.
So going into my career choice is probably, now that we're talking about it, is probably something I will talk about the most, helping other
Does
people
that
build.
connect to what you're studying in school?
Yes,
Okay. And what are you studying?
business.
Okay. So we got two business majors so far. Is everybody a business major? I'm joking. But so if it connects to what you're inspired by and that's what you
Mhm.
want to do, you know, and have you already started or are you in motion creating?
I've already started.
Okay, well that's
So
great.
they've already started their businesses. I helped them start it and, get them going, and they're already going.
That's great. Then you got a perfect answer for your application.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Um, does anybody else have a question around maybe how to write their answer around created, started, or made, or built, or why? Because I wouldn't have enjoyed that question had that question been given to me. So I'm just trying to say, does anybody still kind of stuck on that, or does everybody feel kind of comfortable with that question? Okay. Okay, cool. Silence is a yes. Um, what is something that uniquely motivates you? How does this influence your current plans to transfer? And how will you use your time at your new campus? So, how many of us are there in here? Let's see. Does do a few people mind kind of sharing like hopefully what school they're hoping to transfer to and how maybe they would, you know, kind of answer that question within their application or if they have any questions about that question?
I'll
That's okay.
answer. I,
What did you say? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said I'll answer. I would like to transfer to USC,
Okay, great.
and I think a way that I mean, since it does say uniquely motivate me, I think this is something that I would spend a lot of time thinking about. Um, but right now, I think one thing that motivates me is just like my situation and my life and everything, and how I want to change it and turn it into something better, and to also just create a good future for myself.
Is there a not something that you have to share with me or the group
Mhm.
necessarily, but is there something that is more concrete, like an exact example that you can say? Not necessarily what your life was, but I'm saying how you intend to make it better.
Um, there was definitely a lot of struggle, and I feel
Mhm.
like there's a lot of moments that I can't think of right now to give like a specific example. But again, just a lot of financial struggles, even just like with my living situation.
Mhm.
And I would really just want to create a better life for myself by focusing on my education and focusing on my career and just really working hard.
Okay. Um, so what I would say is I want you to find something that inspires you.
Mhm.
I want you to find something that you can share with them that, like, for example, um, I'm not a first generation college graduate, or I won't be. My mother is as well.
Mhm.
And I have a now 7-year-old daughter. And when I was answering these questions, a lot of what I had to say was surrounding the fact that I did not want to break that chain, right? I didn't want to be the one to not go. Um, and I talked a lot about what my daughter meant to me in and how she inspired me to go back to school and how that was a traumatic situation for me.
Mhm.
When I first went to Valley, I didn't have a place to stay. When I used to drive by Valley for like 10, 15 years, it was not a good memory for me. So I'm saying that to say that it is it's something that's going to be unique to you. It doesn't have to be um, you know, something that no one else would think of, but it's something that I want when you answer the question, I want you to express not just the fact that you want your life to change, but I want you to give details on how you're really going to spend your time, which means how you're really going to actively change your life. Like one of the previous scholars that I had, you know, learned about was someone who had lost a lot of weight during her journey and she wanted to become a nutritionist. And that was
Mhm.
something that was really unique about her journey and something that inspired her and wanted her to change. So I can't tell you what yours is, but I know that it's really important that you find um, something so that you show your evolution and you show the use of that time.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that makes sense.
okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so we have someone who's next.
Hi, my name is Soleil.
Hi,
I
Soleil.
am a freshman here at Pierce. Um, my goal is to transfer to UCLA. I am currently a business major, but I'm trying to see because I'm business admin. I'm trying to see if I could head more to the business marketing route.
Okay.
Just because I see that more as a fit. I feel like you had mentioned like the topic of weight loss, and that's something that's really big to me just because in the past 2 years I've managed to lose about like 125 pounds.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. Would that be like a good enough topic to really talk about? I feel like another thing that also motivates me with that is like it also like just brought out a lot of confidence, and I've been doing like wellness sort of like content creating and stuff and just trying to sort of become a beacon of motivation for others and sort of built a community out here in Los Angeles. And I don't know if that would be like a good sort of topic to talk about when it comes to that question portion.
Yes, I think that's a great thing for you to talk about. I think the one thing that I would say is she wanted to be a nutritionist and you're in
Hmm.
business.
Hmm.
So I would say if you can, find a link between
Yeah.
what you are actively doing with your time that they do want to know about and is very important. And then
Yeah.
also how you relate that to business and how you want to share that with other people. How do you want
Yeah.
to inspire other people so that they know that's something that they can do? How are, you interested in doing that through education? Maybe
Mhm.
you're interested in building your own business. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's very much building my own business.
Okay. So, yeah, but all of the JKC wants to know that you care about the community. They
Mhm.
want to know that they're paying for people's education that are going to be leaders and that are going to go out and change the world. That's what they care about.
Yeah.
They care about people who are not just interested in higher education, but people who care about other people than just themselves. They
Yeah.
want people who are going to inspire and people who are going to, really put themselves out there and be dynamic in whatever it is that they're offering. So
Mhm.
you putting together a group and you doing that, that is a concrete evidence that one, you can inspire people, two, that you have shown growth, that you're willing to, you know, elevate yourself, and also that you are very determined.
Mhm.
Those are all elements of your personality that you need to show within your application.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That was very insightful. Thank you.
You're welcome. I can see Coney is trying to get us to kind of wrap it up. Does anybody have any additional questions? Okay, got you.
I do, if nobody else has one.
Okay, let's go for it.
How many letters of recommendation did you need for this scholarship? Or rather, not how many did you need, how many did you receive for before you actually applied? And of those letter of recommendations, from whom did it come from that mattered the most?
I asked 5 people for letters of recommendation. They ask you for 2. They basically, the way it works is, I will show you right now. There is an area right here for recommendations. You fill this out, select a new one, and you have to fill in their information. You ask whether it's a contact, whether you get to read it or not, they will let you know. And then basically, you do this for 2 people. Now, personally, the way I picked mine, I I kind of told you the story about how I ended up meeting an acquaintance that was a great letter of recommendation. Um, Basically, my TAP counselor was looking for someone to speak at one of the LA Valley board members' charity events. And the event was called If It Matters, Get It Done. And I went in there and spoke to a group. They are a sorority of teachers. And the woman that hired me to speak there was on the board at LA Valley. So we kind of built a rapport. We had a really good relationship. Um, and once I knew that she was really in my corner and she actually really cared, I did ask her for a letter of recommendation. For me, I also had a professor who really liked my work and I knew would give me a good recommendation. I think what you're looking for is you're looking for people who aren't going to give you the generic letter. You're looking for people who will respond with a, this is who she is in my classroom, or this is the type of service that she, is willing to give, blah, blah, blah. I would say counselors, chairs, professors, um, even if you have some sort of professional reference and you've worked at the same job for a really long time, um, I think they're looking for excellence. Whoever is really willing to say, you know, this man, this woman right here, she's the one you want. And really mean it authentically and share like how special you are. That's what I would go for. But also, it's not a letter of recommendation, it's paper. They're going to send it in through an email themselves. So you're gonna have, and you'll know through the application when they have actually sent it in. So, I do recommend some extra time, like I said, because you have to stay on top of people, especially, professors who have all this other stuff going on. So I would recommend you say, "Hey, do you remember to do that thing for me?" Because it more oftentimes than not, it takes a little bit longer than you think. Do you feel like that answered it, or do you feel like you're still not sure?
You answered the question. It just makes it more difficult for me because I've asked for, um, I think more than five. I actually received one from VP Manzano before he retired,
Okay.
and I was trying to navigate or trying to decide which of all of the letter of recommendations that I've received would be the best choice for the application.
Do you feel like there's one that reflected you in a way that you enjoyed or that you felt like was representative of who you are?
I felt like they all did, only because since I started at Valley, I've been there every single day, Monday through Friday. I've gone through a lot of departments and got to know plenty of the staff. So, um, just how each person who wrote a letter described me, they all had one common thing to say, but each described me in a different way that I was like, oh, I didn't see myself that way, but
Right.
it was still a great letter. So it's just like, okay, well, which of these great things do I want them to know about me? Because I like them all.
Do any of them connect to your major?
I feel like they, again, they all do because I make it known in every course that I've taken. I make it known that I'm a nursing major. Like
Okay.
that is what I want to do, and these are the things that I'm passionate about. So every topic comes back to that.
Okay. Okay. I think one of the things you can do is um because you have to send links, who do you feel comfortable asking again so that they would be willing to do that? Because they'd have to rewrite it, just to be clear.
I think that's going to be the most difficult part. Like, hey, I know you gave me one already, but here's
And you
what I
do,
need you to do,
yeah, yeah,
and I need you to be quick about it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, my thing is this: go on the Common App. I would suggest for everybody, play around, see exactly what it is, and also like take it all in. Just spend some time going over the questions and seeing what's there. Go through the whole thing once. It's probably going to take you 30 minutes to an hour. So just realize that you having to get out those letters of rec, there's two, you having to get your transcripts and all that information together, and how many high schools you went to, and the address you live at and used to live at, and all the stuff that you have to collect. Be aware that especially if you're going to school at the same time, it's going to move fast. It's gonna move really fast, and before you know it, it'll be January 1st, and you'll be like, uh so my thing is, go to the Common App today. Open it up today, play around in it. You don't have to actually answer any questions, but get familiar, and then after you do that, you can make some more decisions. You can think about it and say, who do I want? Because I had to think about it for a while. Who is really going to represent me the way I want to be represented? How do I want them to see me? Do I want them to know about me being a nurse? Do I want them to know that I'm, something else? Do I want them to know about my weight loss journey or my journey as an entrepreneur or how I serve my community? All those things matter. So I'm going to say this one more time. The way you spend your time matters. That's what they care about. They want to know who you're showing up as in life every day. Put it in your application and don't apologize for it. Be proud of it and realize that it has some value. So create your answers. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that is my personal email. I check it every day. Columbia sends me stuff all the time. So I stay in that email. If you guys want to, reach out to me or ask me any further questions, feel free to do it. I'm going to be honest, I am in midterms. It might take me 2 or 3 days. So, other than that, you guys make sure that you actually, do some research, watch some videos on YouTube about Jack Kent Cooke, see who they are, see if it's what you want, see if it's your vibe. Like, really understand that this is a process because, if you have, the grades to do it, like, you might be a semifinalist come the end of February. It goes by really fast. And then after that, like I crossed my fingers for like 3 whole months. Like, am I? Because Columbia is $100,000 a year. So I I just really I want you guys to know how attainable this actually is. And that it really is only about preparation and you really curating yourself and recognizing the value that you have and putting it out there because you've done the work. If you're here, you've done the work.
For sure. Stacey, thank you so much for your time. We're so grateful for all the knowledge that you've shared with us. So on the behalf of obviously your family, your tribe here at LEBC, Emoji cohort, thank you so much. If we can get some reactions in the chat, that'd be great. Some applause, some hearts, whatever. Just thank you again. And you all make sure to, take a photo of her email here. We will be hosting workshops and so on, so stay tuned in for that. And thank you again, Cece.
All right. Thank you. Good luck,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.